Hello, everyone. My name is Carson Dale. Thank you so much for joining me for my Advertising and Marketing Paper 3 presentation. This is my first year as a grad student. I did just graduate in May 2024 from Colorado State University, whoop, whoop, and I did have an interdisciplinary liberal arts degree. Please do not ask me to say it again. I had a minor in creative writing. Luckily, I can say that. And you may be asking yourself, why did I take this class, as it may not seem relevant? And yes, I think it may have been required to take this class, but I did want to take this class specifically for a couple reasons. And one of them being that I think regardless of what path you're taking, mine being writing, should be able to advertise and market yourself in the things you're doing. So I think it's crucial. And after taking this class, I can say that it was very important for me to take this class. My chosen industry aspect was I was a little confused of which one I wanted to do, but agency compensation made the most sense to me. Because in the dynamic world of advertising, agency compensation has long been a cornerstone of the industry. And I want to talk about all the frameworks and all the things I learned about this semester. But one of the things I thought was very important, and that I talked about in my interview, I talked about in this paper and in the presentation, was how technology has really advanced everything. There's so much that customers demand and expect, and that the frameworks can change from person to person, and that we really have to adjust. And technology has really changed that, and maybe not in the best way, but in a really advanced way. And I also wanted to point out how agency compensation emerged as a formal concept in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. And on my next slide, this was on the final, but I thought it was very important to include because it ties into everything I talked about. The three ways for an advertising company to make money. The first one being media commissions, the second one being markups, the third one being fees. Why do all of them have the number one next to them? I do not know. Now, I think media commissions used to be the best option. They're lucrative for traditional agencies, but the key word there is used to be. The reason I think they used to be is what I talked about earlier from the technology advancements. If something is already lacking in the year 2024 technology or something like that otherwise, I can't imagine what it's going to be like 10, 20, and 30 years. The way I look at it is, luckily, I do not have kids, thankfully. But when I do have kids in 20, 30 years, when they're growing up, what will technology be like for them? What will the market look like then? The marketplace look like then? What will people expect? I think that it will look so much different. My parents talk about how much everything looks different, and I expect things to look so much different when my kids are growing up. So I think when we're talking about these, the best one now is probably fees, and it changes from person to person. But for me personally, fees are the most transparent and versatile option. But I do think as a company and agency, if you are able to, and you should be able to, unless there's some unreasonable thing going on, you should be able to adopt a practice of a hybrid model. Many modern agencies adopt this, and I do think that if you want the best possible thing, it will be to have a hybrid model. Now, I wanted to go over a fictional example real quick for performance based compensation. Consider a fictional campaign by an agency working with an e commerce client. The agreement ties 50% of the agency's compensation to achieving a 20% in online sales within 6 months. Now, we know there will be challenges that are unexpected. You can plan for small challenges that will be bigger than you could ever expect, or there'll be small little hurdles that could be big that you could never expect it at all. Now, let's say in the very end, you have a 15% sales increase, falling short of that 20% goal. Now, you may look at it as a failure, but it does generate significant brand awareness and customer engagement, thus delivering long-term benefits for the client. So we have to think about that. It's not just a one-for-one thing. There are more things that, and it is very layered. Before I wanted to move on, I wanted to talk about some main takeaways from my interview. I interviewed Sarah Lee Jones, a senior advertising executive who specializes in agency compensation. Now, she had three main takeaways that I want to talk about. Now, I just on my last slide talked about performance-based compensation. A significant trend in performance-based compensation is happening, and that is what Sarah said. The second one is transparency is key. She said how people really do not like it when they're not understanding what's happening, so communication with the clients from early on can be so crucial. Now, lastly, the most important thing she talked about, and from the semester, is AI. The use of AI is so crucial. I know we've talked about multiple times throughout the semester, and we had a project about it. It was no surprise to see Sarah mention it within her interview. I was so happy to see her talk about how AI can be beneficial because so many people see it as a negative. Sarah talked about the benefits she's done with it and how it can be so beneficial in the near future and distant future. Because if we want to be using advertising marketing the best way, AI will really help us. Now, I really appreciate you for joining me. Thanks, everyone.